Toastmasters is an honored guest. This story begins on board the USS Bonhomme Richard. We were 16 months into a 2-year-long deployment, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with a naval deployment, just imagine your work building floating in the middle of the ocean for 472 consecutive days with no days off. As you can assume, morale was pretty low. On the morning of June 23rd, 2013, my shipmates and I were awakened by the sound of our commanding officer as he put out, "Shipmates, we're pulling into Cambodia in the next few hours for some well-deserved liberty." Quickly, I got up and got dressed and went down to our Morale, Welfare, and Recreation office to see if they had any trips available. The representative said because it was such short notice, he was only able to set up one trip, and that was to the Museum of Forgotten Shoes. I said, "Museum of Forgotten Shoes? Nice!" As if he had went inside of my brain and picked the exact kind of trip I wanted to go on. Within the next few hours, we pulled into port, and I got aboard the tour bus. To my surprise, I saw that I was the only one. I thought, who in their right mind would miss out on the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to visit the Museum of Forgotten Shoes? While riding in the bus, my mind was filled with excitement, picturing forgotten Nikes, Chuck Taylors, and sandals. As we arrived to the museum, I noticed that the locals were putting together a parade. When I got off the bus, I was greeted with cheers and excitement, but they were short-lived as they noticed I was the only person on board. I was approached by a small elderly man, and he said to me, "Tall one, where is everybody?" I said, "Sir, I'm the only one." He said, "Do they not know that we possess more forgotten shoes than any other place in the world?" I said, "Obviously not." I started to see the happiness drain from their faces, and they began to disperse. So I said, "Wait, please do not be upset with my shipmates. The reason that I alone came is because our commanding officer felt that the majority of us were unworthy to enter your famed museum. So they decided to send the biggest, most handsome, most intelligent sailor that we had. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to come, so I came in his place. Please do not be upset with my shipmates and allow me to enter your museum." He said, "Okay, tall one, we'll allow you to enter our museum, but first you must complete the 3 tasks. Are you ready?" I said, "Yes, sir." The first task was simple, a basketball game against the local youth team. After quickly destroying them, I moved on to the next task. But this task wouldn't be as simple. It involved 3 very large women, a roll of duct tape, and a bag of fun-sized Snickers bars. For time purposes, I can't go into detail, but let's just say that they were satisfied. With the second task completed, it was on to the third task. The elderly man approached me and he said, "Tall one, are you ready for the final task?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You must climb to the very top of Mount Macarena. And yes, as the title suggests, it is named after the famed 1994 Latin hit. And to reach the very top of Mount Macarena, you must do the Macarena the entire time." So I Macarena through snakes, through spiders, through flesh-eating goats, and my sanity and my patience were pushed to the brink. I thought many times of turning back and giving up, but I was warned that once you begin the 3 tasks, there was no turning back. Finally, I reached the top, and there stood the elderly man in front of what seemed to be a secret passage. He approached me, he said, "Are you ready for the final question?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "What was the meaning behind the show Lost?" I've been asking myself the same question for years. After a few minutes, he grew impatient. He said, "Tall one, the answer." I said, "Sir, I don't know." He said, "That is the right answer." Suddenly, streamers and fireworks came flying through the air, and the villagers came pouring out of the secret passage, attempting to lift me up, but with no luck. He said that people had been attempting the question for years, but their answers were always too smart or too logical, and that no one truly knew the meaning behind the show. That's why it was called Lost. The challenge is complete. I was finally able to enter the world-renowned Museum of Forgotten Shoes. The walls were lined with abandoned slippers, sneakers, stilettos, and combat boots. And of course, what shoe museum would be complete without a pair of bedazzled Air Jordans? It was all I'd imagined and more, forgotten shoes as far as the eyes could see. With the day coming to a close, I was walking back to the bus to return to the ship when I was approached by the youth basketball team. They said to me, "Tall one, you're leaving?" I said, "Yeah, it's time to go. No hard feelings, right?" They said, "No, tall one. We actually ran out of room over at the Museum of Forgotten Tourists, and we already have plenty of those shoes." No questions asked, I quickly got on the bus and was returned safely to the ship, ready and willing to continue our 3-year-long deployment, which came to be known as the 3rd longest in naval history. So if you're ever in Cambodia, make sure you guys stop by the Museum of Forgotten Shoes. Just remember to bring some very popular shoes and that bag of fun-size Snickers bars.